Headspaces, it's another topic, it's another conversation. You're sitting with Vijay, the brother from the ancient mother, and right beside me, the man himself.
Ta-Kaizer,
yeah, that's also the introduce. Right?
I think it's the
first time. The first collaborative episode this year. Yeah. It's been a minute since Ta-Kaizer and I chopped it up just to talk about some of the really prevalent topics going on around hip hop. Hey guys, there's a lot to talk about. 2022 was a busy year in many aspects because hip hop is constantly pushing, but also being pushed to understand itself.
Yeah.
And we are also being pushed to understand ourselves. The headspace.
And enough 50 this year.
Hip hop. So shout out to hip hop being 50. It's an old man.
Yeah.
Feels like a man. And I think in all of that though, blend off just it being pushed. The headspace is an extension of the hip hop culture in Africa. And I love the fact that you, the headspacers, our subscribers, have constantly, relentlessly pushed myself, particularly when it comes to the reviews, myself and Ta-Kaizer when it comes to these topics and conversations. Yeah. Because, believe it or not, you make up the headspace. You are the people who determine the discourse and who determine the aspects of what we feel is the most important thing to talk about. We do this because we simply want to be agents, vessels for the growth of South African hip hop. And I think during the course of 2022, we had a lot of episodes that the comment sections were hot as a motherfucker.
Yeah.
And we love it because we whenever we get feedback from y'all, it's something that brings a great level of humility to our hearts, because if we're going to do this really well, we're going to need y'all to kind of really engage with us on a lot of the topics. And with every review I do, I emphasize that these are not absolute ideas. I bring in my understanding of what critique is, and I hope you as the heads have the gusto to be like, yo Vijay, that's some bullshit. But we want to dedicate this episode to those moments where the headspacers have called us out, called us in, engaged with us, have been in dialogue.
Yeah.
Well, I guess dialogue.
Yeah.
One of the things that Headspace represents is to kind of uplift, develop the level of dialogue amongst hip hop heads, because I personally feel hip hop heads can't dialogue for shit. We're used to being so biased about the things we like that the moment somebody else speaks negatively of them, we just dismissively count it off as bullshit. But there's a learning moment there. There's a teachable experience in looking at how people do not value the things you value. There's a moment for engagement, and as a result, we want to engage with some of the episodes we did where y'all didn't quite agree with us, and you might have in many aspects, but you might have not in many aspects. And as a result, we love that. And this episode is dedicated to you, to your critique, to you just having the ability to say it's your channel too, because the topics we bring can only be as great and go as far as you take them. So Ta-Kaizer, which episodes are we focusing on? We did a lot of episodes this year.
No, on today's episode, let's focus on the episode. It was spicy. Spicy. Where the critique was heavy dose. So I think the first one we do the Kendrick Lamar one, the False Idol Trilogy, but
still have trauma from that.
yeah. So let's start with that one.
Yeah.
Let's take 3.
I remember that. Kendrick Lamar.
Yeah.
Hip hop's False Idol.
And more specifically, episode 2.
Episode 2.
Because episode 1 was when you talked about Ilanduka the fact that when it comes to words,
yes,
where actually Kendrick man the way he does, I totally way and but okay, but on the second one where you actually went deeper about the pop culture, how pop culture and Kendrick Lamar fits into your and people went for it because it's their greatest of all time.
One of the most important episodes for me, because the discourse of the headspace is about understanding how hip hop can empower itself. And I've always felt, as much as I love Kendrick Lamar as a rapper, and cats don't realize that in the face of my critique of Kendrick, I love Kendrick.
Yeah.
Because he's a rapper who deliberately knows what he's about. And man, you've got to respect somebody who knows what they're about. Who's not just being moved by the tides. But what he's about is that he knows that there's a classification within pop culture of black Afrocentricity and the need for an idea of freedom. He knows that capitalism wants to sell the idea of being free from capitalism. But we will never be free from capitalism. Yeah. So that's what capitalism thinks. So Kendrick knows how to play to the lyrics, the words, the aesthetics that feel like salvation. And that was what those episodes were about. It was me trying to like emphasize to the people that Kendrick knows he's a fraud, but he knows that the best thing we have in hip hop is a fraud. And that the question of that is that, is it the best thing we have? You know, can hip hop truly have saviors? Or can it have people who play as saviors? Which is what I claim Kendrick is. So let's go into our comment section. What do our people have to say about
from
it?
Deadex, is it Deadex B1?
Deadex B1.
He had a lot to say. He says,
shit.
The thing was 33 minutes long, the video. So he says, 33-minute justification for hate. The greatest rappers, artists, musicians acknowledge and praise his abilities. People who have created the game say he's the best to touch the mic. Lo and behold, a series dedicated to hating on a guy because he is what he is. Don't call yourself a hip-hop head if you fail to separate old from new and how different players help in placing stone in the game. And the mountain that is today. And atop that mountain is the greatest student of the game. Lyrical, compelling, timeless, musically sublime, where his music reaches across multiple generations. Listening to old hip-hop and knowing the jargon doesn't automatically make you a hip-hop head. A hate monger who doesn't understand influence and impact, talking about pop culture and hip-hop like they're mutual exclusive. And now that the guy has money, that makes him worse. That makes him worse than he was before. He's appealing to the pro-black and what. And that's in quote what you're saying. He says it himself that he's no one's savior. You lack perspective. You lack understanding. You lack the tools to dissect. You're mixing up your anti-capitalistic beliefs with music. Stick to local and popular artists, my guy. Since Labo and International are beyond your depth, Kendrick Lamar is the GOAT. If Dre, Snoop, Denzel, Eminem, 50, Lil Wayne, and the whole Wu-Tang, Andre 3000, Jay-Z, West Coast, East Coast pioneers of the game say he is, then the point you're trying to desperately to make invalidate by the same people who you say did it better.
Right.
Summary, you dumb, which is reflect your dumb opinion.
That was a mouthful. But it wasn't. It was. We. You know.
Yes.
It was.
At least it did make some.
Yo, listen. I love this because President Ta-Kaizer will tell you we get a lot of feedback that is purely aggravated responses to the things I say. So niggas will say, "Oh man, you think that thing is whack? You bullshit." Yes. I love the fact that Derek expressed his ideas and plotted them out in ways that he dealt with my arguments.
Yes.
He dealt with the argument that I say Kendrick Lamar is a capitalistic pawn who plays to the idea of freedom. So his main argument is Kendrick has gotten reference from historical icons.
Yes.
Therefore, who am I as VJ to claim Kendrick does not deserve to remain or be in the context of greatness because, I don't know, he's some kind of a pawn or he's some kind of a false god. Okay, so I want to clarify two things. When we say Kendrick Lamar is hip-hop's false idol, it doesn't mean Kendrick Lamar is not a great rapper.
Yes.
And I think if one goes into the two videos, you'll see that I have massive reverence for the things Kendrick Lamar has done. My two case studies in the videos were, one, there are two things that Kendrick Lamar fans will always claim. One, Kendrick has done things that have never been done before. And 2, Kendrick is the savior that will lead us out of all of these negative tropes of hip-hop. So I dealt with those 2 things because I feel those things are not real and not true. 1, I provided evidence of Kendrick Lamar's influences and how many a times they surpass him. How Kendrick Lamar's preoccupation with Andre 3000, particularly during the Good Kid, Mad City period, defines how he decided to rap. How Kendrick Lamar's niche as a kind of this rapper who uses these multi-dimensional vocal cadences that can be attributed to Lil Wayne and other influences of Lil Wayne, such as the Nicki Minaj's, what niggas will call weird rap, or many people who hate it will call alien kind of rap, is an evidence of the fact that Kendrick Lamar's style isn't as monumental as his fans would think. That if they go a little bit back, they'd see evidence of how people have done this before. And what separates Kendrick? How did he then come to the forefront of it all? Kendrick comes into the forefront of it all because he knew these were the right ingredients to compete with 2 other people. And I mentioned this in the episode, how the only people standing before Kendrick and absolute greatness was J. Cole and Drake.
And Drake, yes.
And when I talk about absolute greatness, pop culture determines what we look at as great. A lot of the times when we look at the GOATs, it isn't people who we feel have done work amongst the hip-hop culture.
Yeah, it's always in the...
It's people who have transcended the hip-hop culture and been able to introduce hip-hop to a greater demographic of people. So he mentions how I think hip-hop and pop are mutually exclusive. Not at all. Yeah. I emphasized many a times in those 2 episodes that you just have to understand the difference. That you have to understand that hip-hop is a term which was taken by pop culture because it applied to the culture, but really these are rap artists. And what they do is that they rap and their voices speak for certain ideas. Capitalism only cares about the ideas you proliferate. And Kendrick Lamar is as successful as he is because he speaks to ideas that don't disrupt capitalism. His ideas fit very neatly into what capitalism is about. And this is contrary to what a lot of fans think. A lot of fans think Kendrick Lamar is here to insightfully make us aware of how caged and limited and you know, I don't know, fucking oppressed we are. But Kendrick Lamar is only speaking to ideas of protest and ideas that incite a level of inspiration, but he doesn't get to the actual backbone of capitalism. There are and most importantly, Zikhoni rappers. There are rappers who speak anti-capitalist jargon. There are rappers who are able to say to us, yo, here's how you can invest your money, break down your self-identity, look at your community social relations, understand politics, in context to how to break out from capitalism. Kendrick does none of that. And Kendrick knows he does none of that. But what Kendrick holds himself to be is he holds himself to be a kind of reminder for the most important ideas that black people need to hold to themselves. But the thing is, these ideas don't break the system.
Yeah.
They work within it. So my argument as to why Kendrick is a false idol is because you can't make this much money and be this successful if you are really leading people into a path of freedom. Kendrick Lamar speaks the same voice that any other rapper does, but he is the rapper who whiteness chooses to speak to black anger.
Yeah.
Songs like Alright, which was an anthem of the Black Lives Matter movement. Songs that are able to conscientize people about the issues of alcohol abuse and all swimming pools.
Yeah.
Kendrick speaks to all of that, but we need to remember capitalism doesn't care about that. It doesn't care whether you're drunk or not. The only thing
as long as you take
exactly. The only thing capitalism cares about is you understanding how to use your money to invest in things that can allow you to live sustainably beyond the context of the marketplace. And Kendrick speaks to the marketplace. He's an artist sponsored by the marketplace. He's an artist endorsed by the marketplace.
Yeah.
So he does speak black positivity, but it's a black positivity that encourages the marketplace. I don't know if anybody remembers the book Capitalist Nigga.
Yeah.
Kendrick is a capitalist nigga. He understands how to take the aspects of capitalism and speak them in the language of niggas. And speak them in the language that black people will feel they are united. He is the quote-unquote woke version of a Jay-Z. Because a Jay-Z focuses on the glamour and the aspiration. Jay-Z wants you to go out of this rat and find ways to make money. Kendrick wants you to feel like in all of that you know who you are.
Yeah.
So Kendrick speaks to identity. So there's an identity market. And just because Kendrick speaks very important things about black identity, it doesn't mean that these things are groundbreakingly shifting our lives. This is my argument.
Capitalism.
But shout out to Derek.
It's DeadX
B1. DeadX B1. Love it.
All I'm gonna say is capitalism yabondo ba ikse ezikakazi woku zinida nayo bazijive in the club.
Market now.
They need a clear luka.
They need an artist who can make them dance to woke niggas want bitches.
Yeah.
Yeah, bro. Woke niggas.
Another interesting line. What is ezikakazi woku ziyatanda just stand this lalo.
The woke niggas be the worst because they're the ones that try to rope people in with the jargon of freedom. So they be like, yo mama, you know you are an African mama.
And black label.
And then in the end of the day they treat women like shit now.
Yeah, at the end of the day.
So these are ideas, people, and I'm just speaking to the fact that ideology uses us all. And when we speak politically, we need to understand that there are rappers who speak within ideology, and there are rappers who try to break the limitations of what ideology has set. And I think Kendrick Lamar is the former. He speaks to ideology.
Yeah. Okay. Now you negativeness of okay. The next comment. Yeah, the next comment is from Pablin96, and it's Pablin.
Yeah, I think it looks like Pablo. Shout out to Pablo96.
Yeah.
Appreciate
it. He says, hi, I'm from Spain.
No, shit.
And in my current...
International.
I'm from Spain, and in my current personal situation, I'm really misunderstood. Okay, you know, I really misunderstood the sense of music.
We don't speak Espanol.
I really love the work Kendrick did in Them, and that love gave me a reason to stay strong. I'm white and currently live in a good house with family. Stay real and stay focused. That work had a lot for me, and now I really forgot my hip hop head.
Going to this pop
head culture that I have now.
Right.
Your videos, part 1 and part 2, give me a perspective that I forgot.
Yeah.
I think Kendrick is playing in another league, a league that we wouldn't be part of.
Right.
Regards from here, and regards from here, and I hope you release more parts of this.
Oh man.
If it needs be, I subscribe.
Oh man, yo.
Pablo96.
Shout out to Pablo96. I think Pablo understands the core of my argument. Kendrick is playing in another league. Most rappers play it safe. They just kind of throw out the same tropes, bitches, money. Capitalist aspiration.
Yeah.
You know, most of us are middle to lower class. So when rappers speak about the idea of being successful, it appeals to most of us. Because when we are thinking deep down inside in our corners about what we need to do in life, it all involves money. And I think the reason why hip-hop is so successful is because it's a music that speaks to the journey of how to get money and celebrating the moment that you do get money. Hands in the air if you've been broke. I see millionaires, private jets, that's the end goal. Shout out to AKA. This is what hip-hop epitomizes. It epitomizes people's corners and that deep inspiration of trying to reach a place where you just feel sustainable. You know what I mean? And Kendrick is not playing to that. Most rappers play to that. Yo, everybody wants to make money, so let me be part of that dream. Kendrick plays to a more internal experience. He says, you might be getting money, but be very circumspect of who you are becoming in all of that. And this is the one thing I love about Kendrick, is that he's an artist who makes it fashionable to be introspective. Kendrick makes songs that can easily enter the club, and yet these are songs about how to look into your own personal being. And this game that Kendrick is playing is one that is very effective, but nonetheless, it's a game he's playing and he understands the power of it. So shout out to Pablo.
Yeah. Okay, last one, the third one. Like it's short. This one is from Odivius Fresh.
Shout out Odivius Fresh.
And he says, spoiler alert, they all false idols.
I mean, I could have just said that, and that would be the end of the episode. But that there always needs to be elaboration. And I think my role, the Headspace role,
we have to look at
is to say how are they all false idols, and who are the biggest false idols. And I think the biggest false idols are the ones that don't look like false idols, because there's people who they're not hiding the fact that they don't give a shit.
They don't give a shit.
They're just about getting the money. Whereas there are artists who represent something that feels more collective, something that feels more socialist in its aesthetic, and Kendrick plays to this game. He looks like an artist for the people, when really he's just an artist for himself. And I think these are important things, because there have been artists who have claimed to be for the people, and when they become severely threatened by capitalism, let's look at Kanye West, who had his whole sneaker deal taken away from him, and then all of a sudden he relied on us as the people, to engage and help him fight Adidas. Where was the same engagement when he was successful? How did he involve the people when he was at the top of the food chain and being a billionaire? And I think this is what we as hip-hoppers need to be careful of, that rappers don't use us as pawns for their own personal success.
Yes. Oh yeah. That's enough for Kendrick one. Let's get on to
shout out to everybody who commented.
There's over 50 comments.
We couldn't have addressed them all. We couldn't have.
So the next one, another one. Hey, that was hot. So Sotra, Cypher, we had an exclusive of Utumi getting there was Repella, and it was it went viral. And you know, when I asked you about what you feel about the freestyle, and I caught you off guard. Was it off guard?
You did. You caught me off guard. I hadn't seen the freestyle. THA had. He sat me down. He said, "Yo, what do you think of the freestyle?" I watched it, and I was.
And then immediately after,
I was immediately infuriated, and this is what inspired the episode. My anger. And my passion. So you and you know, so what did the people have to say?
Hey, they were on you. So let's get on the first. This one also had about 40 comments. And none of it, and I've tried looking for a positive comment. People were angry because you took aim at
I took aim at one of the most valuable hip-hop icons in the country.
So here's a guy, Tebuho Lebenya. Uti, no man, no, I can't. You can't convince me that this is not hate. It's a freestyle. It's a freestyle, for crying out loud. It's not like it's a song that's meant to represent South Africa to the world. So it has to be relatable to every South African. I think we need to stop boxing SA rappers and telling them how they should sound like or what they should rap about.
Okay, cool. Shall I?
To Tebu
look, we can't escape being boxed. You know, it's funny how the more you try to go out of the box, you just end up in another one. Because the thing is, the way the structure of the system works is that when you define either yourself or you allow yourself to go into the marketplace, you subject yourself to definition. So Dumi, from the beginning of his career, subjected himself to the definition of the quote-unquote conscious rapper. He chose to speak about issues that were more relevant to the coffee shop, Josie, woke crowd who were busy trying to critique politics, focus on the romanticism of SA history. His whole career as part of the volume and also his first albums were really emphasized on a nostalgic introspection of where South Africa has been, because he's a child of political activists, and as a result that was a huge part of his identity. So Tumi boxed himself as this critical rapper, this rapper who speaks to the underlying ideas of our politics. So the one thing that Kat didn't expect is for this kind of a rapper to flip around, take us to the Diamond Walk while he's smoking a cigar and naming himself after one, and then say it's okay to jump in the pool and start fucking bitches like there's no tomorrow. And my thing is, when we investigate who Tumi Molekane is as a person, we'll find out that a lot of what made him so successful wasn't the fact that he spoke to relevant politics, or either the fact that he was like really touching at the base of what's going on in South Africa. It's the way he raps. It goes into this thing of decolonizing SA hip-hop. Tumi speaks in a slang, in a twang, in an accent, and in a jargon that most of the South African demographic cannot immediately understand nor relate to.
Yes.
Tumi is the kind of rapper who says words like, I don't know, sagacious, or like, you know, words that like come out of the fluffy pages of literature. Tumi is somebody whose intercontinental diasporic growth has led to him being somewhat inaccessible to the everyday South African. And this, if Tumi fans are honest, is something that has frustrated him. Tumi is such a good MC, and this is one thing I can admit. Tumi is a great MC, technically, because his projection, his metaphors, his... My God, I mean, Tumi is an incredible rapper, but it takes more than your technical abilities. Tumi has not been able to gain mass appeal. He's not been able to create really good, well-sculpted songwriting. Because he can't relate to the experiences of most people. Because he's privileged. And because he's privileged, he lives in a place where he doesn't know what most people feel. And that freestyle was part of the reason that his metaphors always speak to ideas. Tumi is the kind of MC who will remind you of great icons, but he will not tell you about what life is like in how to tap into your own greatness. So that's why when the debate of Tumi versus Proverb is up, I'm always, look, Proverb knows how to speak to the everyday person. Tumi doesn't. Tumi speaks in the jargon of intellectualism. Tumi speaks in the jargon of those who feel they are smarter than others. Maybe they are.
Yeah.
In the way that they know more books, in the way that they were more experienced about the history of politics.
That's why the everyday people, the normal people who say the average person will say, oh, Tumi, oh, I rapper great.
Exactly. And this is why from his early career, Tumi tried to tap into the everyday person when he featured Briggs, when he featured Ababusi Iswa, and then he felt that it still wasn't hitting it, because featuring a person that speaks to everybody is not speaking to everybody. So he felt that changing his whole approach would be the game changer. Yeah. So he then changes his name, he changes his subject matter, so he speaks to aspiration now. About the reflection of the history. Now he's speaking about everything that every other rapper is speaking about. Yeah. He's speaking about the Louis bags, he's speaking about
fucking bitches,
you know, fucking bitches, getting the nice cars. And he's been this person from the beginning, but he concealed it because he felt the subject matter of the political reflection would get him the respect of everyday people. But because he speaks in a language that is detached, Isingesi comes in many forms, and Tumi speaks the kind of English that South Africans would say comes from private school. And when he comes from private school, he cannot really relate himself to the everyday demographic of this country. And maybe this is not a negative thing. Tumi needs to embrace who he is. The fact that he's a child,
must stop trying.
The fact that him growing up in places in Africa and him being in America at some point in his life filters into the fact that he's not as South African as most rappers. Therefore, he can't be the GOAT. Because if you want to be the South African GOAT,
Yeah.
You have to have a level. You have to have a level of really relating to the everyday South African. Yeah. And this is the irony of Tumi. He's a great technical rapper, but he's an alienated rapper in the context where he lives in. So Tumi reminds us of the dopeness that we think when we think America.
Yeah.
And so Tumi is the kind of rapper who's exportable, but even if he'd go to the States, not many would be able to truly vouch and support for him because they wouldn't know what he's about. So I think the issue of Tumi and why that freestyle for me was just another rendition of the same kind of exclusivity and privilege that lives in this place of colonization. Tumi is that kind of rapper where you can only understand if you feel you are either smarter or you feel your level of intelligence and your level of language and English is more superior than another person. And I think we don't need these kind of tropes in hip-hop. Hip-hop breaks those classist structures. Hip-hop says everybody's on the same level because we're all struggling against capitalism. And Tumi is not an MC who says that. So this is my argument against Tumi.
Yeah, so band. I probably it's gonna go to learn English.
Right.
This guy is just one line eating Moabi Adi. Uti I cannot wait for English to be South African.
Yeah.
Hogwash.
You know, the irony of that is that we have our own South African English. That's why we have a South African English dictionary that has words like Indaba.
Yeah, Indaba.
That we're going to the hip-hop Indaba. And this is my point, is that English has become such a vernacular global means of communication. But when you speak it, the way you speak it identifies the demographic to which you speak to. Pro Kid had songs that he rapped primarily in English.
Yeah.
Like thoroughly, fully. But the words he used and the way he rapped in English was still applicable to the general mass. Ricky Rick, aka, you name them. English is not the issue. The issue is the referencing. To me, references experiences that the everyday South African cannot understand. He will dig into what happened in Nigeria, what happened with Lumumba. To me, paints this rich picture of political greatness, you know, that many would call a Hotep narrative. So because of that, he speaks to the people who know their literature and their history.
Yeah.
So to me, subject matter.
Every South African knows
to me, subject matter. Just one thing again is trapped in books, and if you don't read books, there's no way you can really like Tumi.
Then talk.
Talk to me if you think I'm talking shit, because the everyday person who doesn't and has no familiarity with formal literature can't appreciate Tumi, but they can appreciate a proverb, or Ricky Rick, a Questa. And if hip hop is to really go and become impactful, it speaks to people's experiences, and this is the challenge that every rapper has.
You know, you bring something,
sure.
Regardless of the comments. You know, it's always the norm when it comes to real hip hop heads.
So-called.
Because that quote Ziti, if you're not smart, if you don't read books, then
these are the people that are these are the
people.
These are the motherfuckers of this comment section.
Yeah, if you don't read books, then you'll never be a dope rapper.
Books are not a measure of intelligence.
Yes.
Books are actually a measure of privilege and exclusivism. Because books circulate in academies and institutions, and the everyday person that you see around you does not have to have access to books, because knowledge lives in the experience of
the experience of, yeah.
So I really feel like why I have to deliberately engage critically on the issue of Tumi is that Tumi is a great rapper, but we have to question why is he great. And I think he's great because a lot of us don't realize he reminds us of colonial standards. Tumi speaks to Queen Elizabeth. He doesn't speak to Queen Mujaji.
I remember Ilskunda.
Shout out to Ilskunda.
I'm most biggest fan of Ilaruga. Headspace.
Ilskunda's been spreading the gospel.
Yeah.
He's like Jesus.
But I think
he's the headspace Jesus.
But I think on this episode, so you pissed him off.
Oh shit! I was pissed off Jesus.
Yeah. He was like, I'm mad. You don't do this like you do pula. Ugxeke kakuhle nathi usivisise ezi lyrical miracle biblical bars.
Right.
Cause right now viewers sound like he wants Tumi to sound like what he wants. Tumi is Tumi. People's ideas of how they want him to sound is just fact. You can't be doing what someone else wants you to do. Viwe uikaka for every time you talk about Tumi. Funeke ubeneza inverted commas because if feelings zako and how you want him to sound, and you sound like you don't like him.
Listen, shout out to your school. My solemn oath as part of the headspace was I would never let my personal ideas of an artist cloud the way I talk about them. And the only way I get to do that is by asking myself what the artist is trying to do. Because we're not always trying to do the same things.
Yes.
So I have to understand what Tumi as a rapper is trying to do. What Stogie T as a rapper is trying to do.
Yes.
I have to divorce myself from anything that he might have said or done, and I have to understand who he is as a person and what his intention in the game is. So as a result, I feel like the argument that my personal hatred for Tumi, whether it exists or not, filtered into like this commentary.
Yes.
I totally don't agree with that. My thing was, Tumi is an incredible MC by virtue of the standard of his English.
You don't have to.
Tumi is an incredible MC by virtue of the standard of his references. So my thing with Tumi is he speaks to the aspirational aspect that still exists within hip-hop. How most of us wish we would be in America.
Yeah.
We don't say it out loud, but because hip-hop travels to us from America, when we close our eyes and we imagine the biggest level that we are relevant in, we imagine America.
But I think you did make that point on that, the first comment. So you feel like you are repeating yourself.
Yeah. Here's the thing, but I'll speak to that. Here's what I'll admit to.
Yes.
I'll admit.
I want you to admit.
Yeah. No, but here's what I'll admit to. I'll admit to the fact that when I did that review, I did not focus on the actual dissection of the verses. I concluded the freestyle and spoke about it from a political perspective without referencing direct lines. And I think that allowed for my argument to feel like hate.
Yes.
Because I haven't done that before. I've always spoken of reviews in ways that were analytical and referenced places that people can spot out about why I feel a certain kind of way about what an artist has exhibited. And in that freestyle, I didn't speak to Tumi's lines, but I assumed that people would be able to locate what I was talking about. And that was one thing I will admit as what my fuck up, you know? Yeah. But I want to say this for the record. I grew up on Tumi. He was my favorite MCs. And in growing up and really realizing his impact, I've grown to understand why we revere him. And my opinion is that we don't revere Tumi because he is a rapper whose stratosphere surpasses most. We revere Tumi because his metaphors, similes, cadences speak to something that is internationally inclined. He reminds us of Black Thought, he reminds us of Common, he reminds us of all of these MCs who speak the romantic ideals of Africanism to us. And as a result, Tumi was Nasty C before Nasty C.
Yes.
And I think that's why Tumi likes Nasty C so much.
Yes. He sees a part of
He sees a part of himself in him. He sees somebody with the potential to break beyond South Africa. And I think Tumi's issue was that he lived in a time where South Africans didn't care much for international culture because Kwaito, Gqom, and Deb and Kwaito were all doing their thing. Yes. And Nasty C was born in a time where the syndication of trap allowed for the younger generation to value it more. So Tumi probably wishes he was born in '98 or something like that, but he was. Okay. And that's what I think is the difference.
Okay. Conclusion of Tumi, the Tumi freestyle, Sotra.
I don't hate Tumi, I just hate what he represents.
And he's my favorite MC. I don't agree with him most of the time. Like, okay, as much as he makes sense about Tumi, I'm still gonna bump him.
I pump him too.
Yeah, we pump him, yeah.
That's the thing, I love me, guys. yeah.
This guy says post. Anyway, on to the last one, man. Another one that got negative. Criticism. They were like,
I love it.
Elijah dropped an album recently, Mind Contamination. And we did a review.
That one annoyed me.
Yeah, it also annoyed me because people chose not to listen to everything in this talk. Anyway,
check this out. Let me give you a quick backdrop. A lot of people don't know that being part of the PE/GQ hip hop scene, I'm familiar with Elijah. Rapped with him, alongside him, against him in many instances. Elijah knows who I am.
Yes.
And maybe that might be misconstrued as like personal bias or whatever. But the thing is, yo, guys, when I speak of an artist on the Headspace, that in and of itself is a moment of exaltation. I am here to bring artists out in the best of what they represent. And I do that by focusing not only on their highlighting progressive aspects, but also on where I feel that they could do better. I feel they could do better. And in this review, Elijah was clearly aiming for more than his historical battle rap orientated rapping. Because Elijah is an MC who was cultivated in the battle rap scene. He was cultivated in that aggressive, male-dominated, rapping for other men, proving yourself in this pyramid of great rap kind of scene. Yes. And his album was not that. This was the first time I heard Elijah opening himself up and telling his story as a person. Vulnerability, love, fear, insecurity, aspiration. And one thing that annoyed me about most of these comments is that they completely dismissed every positive thing I said about Elijah.
Yes, and then they start...
Because there's a lot of great things about that album. The fact that he strived for that, the fact that the beats aligned for that, the fact that his lyrics spoke to that, the fact that he himself actually got into the task of speaking the story of Elijah. The one thing that failed him, his delivery. And just not one thing. So many people felt I'm an Elijah hater because I said Elijah always raps like he's angry, which by the way is an actual fact if you listen to his music. So I'm really keen in these comments. Ta-Kaizer, go into them.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. Uthi lebrangu Ntokozo Mihlali.
Shout out Ntokozo.
After watching this review, I was convinced that I shouldn't listen to the album, but I gave it a chance. That was the best decision I made this year. Best album I've heard this year. Can't wait to hear more from Elijah the MC. I love this project.
Shout out Ntokozo.
Yes.
You know, there's one thing I've always highlighted about these reviews is that the reviews speak to what the artist is trying to do, right? The reviews speak to whether or not the artist executed that vision masterfully. And then they also speak to the subtle politics that speak to the artist's vision, right? And for the everyday listener, I understand that it's just about whether you fucks with it or not. You know?
Yeah.
People don't ask themselves why they fucks with something. And I think that's where people like me come in. I'm here to say, Ntokozo, you like it, but do you know why?
Yeah.
You know? Do you know why this album resonates with you so much?
Because
because you love that kind of sound. And so my thing is, when I engage on artists, the only thing that I want to bring out really, if we were to conclude it into one pivotal thing, is audiences can reflect on why, the premise of why they love certain things. Because most people don't. And you don't have to. But when it comes to the critique, if you're going to critique my critique, then you're going to have to understand why you like Elijah. You know what I mean? And I already specified Elijah speaks to a certain demographic, so I'm assuming if you liked his aggressive raps, if you like his hyper-lyrical, complex, hyper-masculine rapping, that means you fall under the branch of people who probably appreciate music that doesn't convey a broad range of emotions. And that's cool too. But it's cool you know what you are and how you appreciate music.
Yes.
That's the one thing I have to say for myself. But shout out to Nogozo. I love the fact that people love it.
The second one, Ulwazi Mandulo. I think this
Shout out to
Lwazi actually
Lwazi
came
Mandulo,
it's
Mandulo.
next to positive in Ndwetile, but he says it's a well balanced project.
Right.
So much replay value. I love the fact that the artist did not sound like he's trying to fit in. I love how we tackle different concepts but still manage to keep it real and raw. You know that real and raw?
That's all, okay?
Yeah. I value the opinion given in the review. But as for me, I give praise to the artist for such a great effort. Keep pushing King E.
Dope project. It's all there. What did you say about raw?
Nazo is keeping it
real and raw. These are the people who I feel are problematic.
Yes.
Because their realness and the rawness most of the time is unfiltered aggression.
Bambe masende.
The real and raw is male fantasy. And if we're gonna speak to people who write great music, they don't write from a masende. They write from enthusiasm.
Imagine the
I love you. You know what I mean? Great artists write from the heart, they don't write from the balls. And that's the thing. A lot of so-called underground artists write from their balls. They write from this place where they feel they have to prove their manliness.
Oh, I love you.
They're tough, they're hard. This is where these terms like, yo, Ban is hard. Yo, you niggas hard, man. And niggas hardcore, you know?
Yeah.
You know, because it's just about trying to reinforce this idea of tough, hyper-masculinity. And just from that alone, what's the brother?
Ulwazi.
I don't know you, but I know you really value music that comes from the balls because you value realness and rawness. But what is this realness and rawness? You know? Is Lil Nas X not real and raw? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Just because he speaks to a place of homosexuality, is Anderson .Paak not real and raw? It always feels like this real and raw is a man
angry,
shouting at the top of his lungs, you know, and his muscles and his veins are spreading out. It feels like Goku going Super Saiyan 3. It feels like that's what niggas are talking about when they're talking about real and raw. And my thing is that doesn't speak to the general mass of musical creation. So Elijah might be real and raw, but you are proving my point.
Yeah. Anyway, last one, Jay. It's a beautiful album. Real raps.
Oh shit, there we go.
Yeah,
better
than the weak shit normally.
Some weak. Yeah.
Better than the weak shit normally reviewed on this channel. One combination, 10 out of 10, classic.
That means King Joe with some weak shit. That means every other artist who we've looked at
that means Dimaclera
is some weak shit. You know what I'm saying? This is what we're talking about. There is a demographic in hip-hop that is so preoccupied with proving themselves as men, and they're stuck in this place of being like angry men who want to be heard.
Yeah.
And I really feel like Elijah speaks to a lot of these brothers, man.
And I also feel like that album also indicates that he also wants to escape that.
Exactly.
Yes.
But these are the people who are locking him in that place. You know? And I would really love for us to have Elijah on the couch so he can speak for himself. Elijah, if you're watching this or if you saw the review,
it's an official.
I love your lyricism. And I think this is a topic that you would be a great case study to engage on. Is hip-hop hyper-masculine? Are we speaking mostly to men who want to clutch on these hardcore ideas of what being a man is about, which is mostly aggression? I don't know. Elijah, holler at us, but what I do know is a lot of y'all who spoke that I'm trying to hit on Elijah are proving yourselves because your explanations keep spinning around this idea of realness and hardcore and raw. And I don't think you've asked yourself the question of what you think that means. And what I think that means is it means toughness, bravado, and that's not music. Music is vulnerability. Music is opening your heart out to the people and expressing who you are, not closing it up and wearing a shield and being out.
When you listen to a certain track, it may too many goosebumps. I don't think you're gonna have goosebumps like always on your face.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah, niggas want music that they can beat niggas up to.
Yeah, when they talk about real hip hop. Yeah. But to make it exciting, I was talking to VJ before we started this this episode. We wanna do something different, you know, this year.
Yes.
You know, have a debate, a debate series. You know, because we want to these discussions and debates, zibe more juice.
Yeah.
Instead of telling Muntu I know Teddy Kaka, because obviously I'm gonna tell you Teddy Kaka. But you know, to make it exciting, we want to have this debate series whereby if you disagree with VJ. With this absurd, almost absurd.
He's weak. Niggas weak.
Yeah, niggas weak.
Soft.
Finally, there was also another comment.
Candy cane.
He's not even hard.
Cotton candy, squeaky.
So anyway, so if you feel like you know you've got like points, I can sit on this couch and debate with this motherfucker. You are open to whether it relates to, you know, whether because whether it relates to our past episodes or anything he posts online also, because if you follow him, you will
Viwe Joka everywhere. But that's it, we're opening it up because look, the headspace is for the cultivation of hip-hop discourse, SA hip-hop discourse, African hip-hop discourse, and if we're going to get anywhere that's really exciting, it's going to be through engaging and calling ourselves out and in. So anybody who's like they can step up and talk to me directly and they've got their arguments set up on how I might be a hypocrite, how I might be off on many aspects. I'm not here to pretend like I know everything, y'all. I am a student of hip-hop as much as you are a student of hip-hop, and I think when we meet each other in a place where we're all willing to learn from each other, the headspace as a whole is going to grow. So as Ta-Kaizer said, if you think you can fuck around and engage with me, please, I beg of you, I challenge you. You bitch ass
even if it's an artist, even if it's a rapper who felt like it, low score.
I think they're studying a language, yeah. You bitch ass niggas need to come through. You wanna talk to me? Come through, bring it. I'm ready to fuck around with y'all bitch ass niggas, you pussy, fucking bitch made niggas who are fucking probably rimming on you each other's fucking nutsacks. Come at me. You bitch ass motherfuckers.
Just inbox me with Ta-Kaizer. Oh, okay, no.
See, that's how you get him.
Yeah, look at concepts.
Fucking goggling on Elijah's balls. Your mouth is wet.
Viwe Joka on every social media.
Holla at me.
Yeah, look at concepts.
But before you holla at me, make sure you take the stench of Elijah's balls out your mouth so that I can talk to you personally. So that you don't smell like Elijah or do me.
Hey,
that's how you talk with these. That's how you talk with these niggas. Fucking take Doomy's balls out of your mouth before you talk to me.
This escalated.
Talk to me when you're ready to jump off Doomy's dick and warm your anus up, because it's been in Doomy's dick so long that it doesn't know its true
proportions. Even if it's on Kendrick's dick also, you know.
It's been on K-Dot's dick so much, it's not even an anus, it's an anus Lamar. It's an
That's okay, guys. Ta-Kaizer and your brother from another ancient mother. Peace, Masambin, before I need to get more.
Get your balls out of these rappers' anuses.